Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Is This Thing Working? Here we are on Super Tuesday. How's it going, Denise?
It's going great. It's going great. I'm glad to be here on this Super Tuesday. Another voting day here in America. Let's remind everyone to vote in Florida, Ohio, Kansas, Arizona, and Illinois. So get out and vote in today's Super Tuesday primary. Very important. Very important. But welcome to the show, everybody. Before we start, please share the show with all your friends, stomp that like button, and subscribe to your platform of choice to receive instant notifications of every new show that comes out Monday through Friday. So don't forget to be looking for us at 2 p.m. every day. And yesterday, we want to apologize. We had technical difficulties putting out our Rumble video. We were trying something new, and this is what we're going to be doing from now on, is we're going to add to our Rumble so we can have more of a visual. So I'm real excited about it. So bear with us.
Yep. We're working on new and improved.
New and improved. So bear with us and comment and let us know what you think about the new stuff we were adding.
Yep.
Because that helps us and gives us feedback.
But yeah, like you were saying earlier, and in the spirit of reminding things, let's remind people once more about Florida, Ohio, Kansas, Arizona, and Illinois. Get out and vote today. I hope that you've researched all your candidates. Choose your candidates wisely today. Don't think that this is just some passing by election. These are important elections. If anything, man, the elections now are most important.
Especially the ones at home.
Yep.
So your local elections are very important.
Grassroots.
So please, let's everyone just get out and do our civil duty. That's what we're going to do. We got several topics that we want to go over today. We're going to start with this Bloodbath hoax, that we're going to update on that. And then we have several Supreme Court cases that have been going on. So we're going to go through, I believe, 3 of them. One was Peter Navarro. One was Murphy versus Missouri. And then the one, SB 4 here in Texas, that Governor Abbott made a statement regarding yesterday. So we're going to talk about all that today. Yesterday, we talked about this crazy hoax that the mainstream media had put on over the weekend. They were saying like all kinds of rhetoric about the word bloodbath.
Yeah.
You know?
And in no way did Trump mean it in a negative, well, in that term. He didn't mean it in that term as a chaotic, murderous, bloody scene. He meant by the third definition in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which is a way to describe an economic downfall.
Yes, which he was talking about the car industry.
Yeah.
The auto workers, you know, what's going to happen to them because of this EV push that they are on these car manufacturers. But what we discovered is who funded it. You know, who funded this bloodbath
narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, because all of a sudden, like we're saying, almost directly after the moment that he said it, here come the bloodbath narrative.
Yes.
And it was disproved even in real time. It was debunked even in real time, and they continued with it and continued. Went as far as yesterday morning to continue with it. The Morning Slow Show called all of us idiots.
Idiots and stupid by the end of it. The whole thing was stupid. You know, but this group is called Midas Touch Group. They're behind the Bloodbath hoax. And it was revealed that Epstein Island's Reid Hoffman, who's a mega donor, he gave money to the E. Jean Carroll Fund to help her go after President Trump. He gave money to Nikki Haley to help her get elected.
To Fusion GPS, who was the ones behind the Russia hoax. The Russia collusion, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this group intentionally omitted that Trump was referring to an economic bloodbath for the auto industry in a speech in Ohio on Saturday. Joe Biden's presidential campaign, alongside the corporate media, took up this theme, alleging that President Trump threatening political violence.
And you could see the whole game, what was up, the moment that every one of them, all of the media in lockstep, began screaming bloodbath and pushing that narrative
over and over again.
Regardless of what anybody else said to them, they took logic and context and threw it out the window like good little commies, like they always do.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because, we found out that this group is a team of hardline Never Trump activists, and they masquerade as journalists for this website, right? Which began its life as a Democratic PAC. There's these three brothers that went in together to become Never Trumpers. But the national polls can reveal that one of the men who helped them get it off the ground was none other than Reid Hoffman. He bankrolled, like I said, E. Jean Carroll. He's linked to Epstein Island, the billionaire Epstein, and of course
the pedophile. And he threw cash at Nikki Haley. He was one of the mega donors that continued to let her stay out there in her presidential campaign.
Yes. And we were talking about her this morning. And, hey, have y'all heard anything about Nikki Haley since she dropped out? I haven't heard a word. Haven't seen her on X or anything.
Yep. Here's a little history about Hoffman. It said that he's been outed for visiting Epstein's Island in 2014. That was long after Epstein's conviction for procuring a girl below the age of 18 for prostitution. So he even arranged for a stay at the Manhattan townhouse where Epstein abused many of his victims. Hoffman admitted to the Wall Street Journal that by lending my association, I helped Epstein's reputation and thus delayed justice for his survivors. He claimed his last interaction with the convicted sex offender was in 2015. So here, what he's saying is he's actually bragging that he's defended Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying.
He's proud of it.
He's proud of it. And Hoffman also contributed more than $600,000 to the legal defense fund of Bean LLC, otherwise known as Fusa GPS, the company responsible for the creation of the Steele dossier, which spread various false accusations of links between Trump and Russia. So, yeah, that's who's funding it all. And why everyone falls for it, I don't know. I mean, look, it was terrible, the amount of rhetoric that came out. But what even really shocked us was the fact that on Monday, after it had all been debunked, The View, those awful
retarded women, man,
on The View, kept up with this hoax.
Yeah.
All day on Monday. They got railed for it, though. They got railed. But that's just what they do. They go after President Trump and anybody that's in his circle. For example, Peter Navarro.
Steve Bannon.
And
Michael Flynn.
A long list. But Peter Navarro is the one that we're really praying for right now because today he has to turn himself into prison.
Yeah. Is he there yet? What time do you know?
No, he's supposed to go in at 2 p.m. today, I believe. But after Chief Justice John Roberts turned down his bid to remain free while he appeals his conviction for defying a subpoena from January 6th Select Committee, Peter Navarro will turn himself in to serve 4 months in prison. What we want to do is read Peter Navarro's statement regarding the Supreme Court's decision.
Yeah, this is on Twitter yesterday evening, 7:49, and this is what Peter says here. Here's my statement I issued after Justice John Roberts decided to reject my release pending appeal. Justice Roberts took care to note that his reason for denial was distinct from my pending appeal on the merits. That appeal on the merits will continue, and if I fail in that appeal, after nonetheless serving my full prison term, the constitutional separation of powers will be irreparably damaged, and the doctrine of executive privilege dating back to George Washington will cease to function as an important safeguard for effective presidential decision-making. There's much at stake here, and it is worth the fight. The partisan nature of the imprisoning of a top senior White House aide should chill the bones of every American. In Joe Biden's weaponized justice system, a Democrat-controlled Congress and the Justice Department, together with an Obama-appointed district judge and the 3 Obama-appointed appeals court judges, drove the Navarro Railroad right into prison. If anybody thinks these partisans and politicians in robe aren't coming for Donald Trump, they must think twice now.
Yes. He said it all right there in his statement.
And let me tell you something. If you think they're only coming for Donald Trump and his circle of friends, you're badly mistaken, because President Trump has said it over and over and over again. They're not coming for me, they're coming for you, and I'm in the way.
Yes. you know, and they continue to come after President Trump. I mean, even today, all over the news, you hear, you know, what's going on with him not being able to come up with the cash for this bond, you know? So,
Yep.
I mean, they're constantly digging, constantly trying to get him and anybody in his circle in jail. And Peter Navarro will be the first one that actually goes to jail out of all of this. So we really, you know, he's a 74-year-old man.
Yeah.
And this is a stupid reason for him to be going to jail. No one else has been sent to jail for refusing the stupid congressional.
Wasn't it Obama's AG, Eric Holder? Didn't he refuse to appear too?
Yes.
Yeah, he never went to jail.
And what was their name? Lois Lerner?
No, that was
That was an IRS lady.
that was the IRS lady.
She still refused to come and.
Yeah, Lois Lerner. She lied. She lied in front of in the hearing. James Clapper lied in the hearing. Boldface lied. They all
Yes.
sat there and looked at him, watching him, knowing he's lying.
Nothing happened.
Nothing ever happened.
Nothing ever happened.
No.
Same old thing. Let's get conservatives and Democrats get away with everything.
That's it.
Same old thing. You know, and speaking about that, you know, that just brings us right to what happened yesterday, you know, with the Supreme Court, the Murphy versus Missouri.
Yeah, the case that's dealing with the government coercing censorship out of big tech.
Yes. So we got that right here. We're going to go through this Gateway Pundit article. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments in this Murphy versus Missouri Supreme Court free speech case. It ended up all over the place yesterday.
With some surprising opinions from some of the judges, too.
Yeah, I was really surprised. This has been really big. Missouri and Louisiana and 5 individuals filed suit arguing that the federal government violated their First Amendment speech rights by influencing social media companies to censor their posts related to the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 elections. Everybody remembers when this was going on, I'm pretty sure, because we were all like stranded in our house, right? And everyone was on social media. But during that time, the government took over social media pretty much and told us what we could hear and what we couldn't, what we could say. Just totally, you know, banned people from social media for years.
Anybody that spoke against the narrative of COVID-19 was damn sure censored.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And this is a very consequential free speech case in U.S. history. This will tell us, the American people, what our Supreme Court really thinks about free speech, and if they're going to go and do what they should.
Man, if they rule on the side of the government, I agree with what Rand Paul said, and he said this yesterday also. He said, today, SCOTUS heard Murphy versus Missouri, the most consequential free speech case in U.S. history. This isn't just about social media companies. It's a critical examination of government overreach. The Biden administration and the FBI's efforts to influence big tech into silencing dissent tramples on the First Amendment. Our focus must be on preventing government censorship, not compelling private entities to act as censors. This case could redefine our free speech.
Exactly.
And he's exactly right. Look at the backwardness of all of this right here. The Supreme Court of the United States should be protecting whose right? My right. The Supreme Court should be protecting me from the government overreach of censoring and silencing dissent. The Supreme Court should focus on preventing government censorship, not silencing me.
Exactly. Well, we have this
Ketanji Brown Jackson's opinion.
Yes.
And also Kavanaugh's opinion. You know, even Kavanaugh.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, KJP, I call her KJP, but KBJ.
KBJ is her new name that we call her, because saying that long name sometimes get your little tongue twisted. That's kind of funny, though. But what she says is, listen to this. She asked the Louisiana Solicitor General, my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways at the most important time. I mean, what would you have the government do? She asked. I've heard you say a couple of times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe. Don't do it is not going to get it done. So I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country. And you seem to be suggesting that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
That's exactly what he's suggesting, and that's exactly what the Constitution says.
That's the most horrifying thing I've heard from a Supreme Court justice. That's just terrible.
That is horrifying. Because look at what she says. She goes, I've heard you say a couple times the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe. Don't do it or it's not going to get done. Why are you even bringing up a hypothetical?
Yeah,
Look at what the Constitution says. Your job is to interpret what the law says based on the Constitution.
And by the way, I'm not a kid. I don't need to be treated like one. And that's what the government is doing. And that's what she's doing.
Yeah. And she goes on to say, so I guess some might say the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect its citizens of this country. Yeah, you have a duty to take steps to protect us, but you do it through military. You protect us
through our military by keeping us safe. And closing our borders.
Yeah. You don't keep me safe by some offending opinion by somebody else.
Yeah, that's my decision.
Exactly.
I can turn that off. I can tell them fake news. I can use my First Amendment right to speak my opinion, whether or not I want to see that or not. That's my right.
Exactly. There's a little red X at the top right-hand corner of your computer, of the internet, and it works every time. If you don't like what I got to say, hit that little red X.
I just think she's concerned that the First Amendment is just making it harder for the government to censor speech.
That's exactly what it is. And that's what's crazy is you've got this going on. You've got these kind of opinions coming out of our Supreme Court.
But, the one that actually made a little sense, Justice Alito, he came out and he referenced the exchange between the White House and other federal officials and Facebook in particular, but also some of the other platforms. He continued, and I see that the White House and other federal officials are repeatedly saying that Facebook and federal government should be partners. We are on the same team. Officials are demanding answers. I want an answer. I want it right away. And when they're unhappy, they curse them out. There are regular meetings there, and the constant meetings and pestering of Facebook and some of the other platforms. And they want to have regular meetings, and they suggest rules that should be applied and tell us everything that you do so we can help you and we can look it over. And I thought, wow, I cannot imagine federal officials taking that approach to the print media or representatives over there. If you did that to them, what do you think their reaction would be? And I thought, the only reason why this is taking place is because the federal government has gotten Section 230 and antitrust in its pockets.
Bang. Right there.
That's it. That's the reason. Right there. So at least we know we have at least one justice so far who understands what's going on.
And has his eyes open.
His eyes open. Because this is what's happening. And this is a very, very important case that we need to be watching every single day. But the thing that Justice Alito said, the way the government is treating social media, like it's their platform. Like social media has to just come right out and do whatever they say. For example, Google. You heard what's going on with Google right now. It just came out really big today. It's all over the place, this Google election interference report.
Yeah, we seen that on Fox News this morning.
Oh, my gosh.
Were reporting.
I was like, 41 times Google has interfered in the U.S. election since 2008. Can you believe this? 41 times. There's a summary, and we're going to go way in depth on this later on. We're just going to touch on it right now. But for 16 years, Google has utilized its power to help push an electoral victory, the most liberal candidates, regardless of party, while targeting their opponents for censorship. Okay, so we have this big case at the Supreme Court talking about censorship, and now we have Google. This report comes out about Google and how many years it's been censoring conservatives. And we know on a daily basis, when we are researching stuff for our show, that finding anything conservative is difficult. It is like 0% out there for conservatives unless you punch in, for example, post-millennial in the search bar. You're not going to get post-millennial.
Yeah, you have to go to their website directly, and then...
The same way with Gateway Pundit. Mm-hmm. Even though you might punch in Trump, let's say, for example, we did a Gateway Pundit article on the Supreme Court. If you type in SCOTUS, you will not get a Gateway Pundit article. It will all be left-leaning.
Well, you know, Apple does the same thing.
Well, sure.
On your keyboard, on your text keyboards where you have the predictive word text, and it comes up.
Yes.
You put the word president, and you watch the next predictive word search, and you watch what comes up. It will say Obama and Biden.
Oh, yes.
And then I think some other crazy word. But then if you...
Bush. Sometimes you get Bush.
You get Bush. Yeah. Sometimes, though, if you put in the word Trump and you capitalize it, Trump.
Yes.
It will go from there to trumpet, Trumps.
Yes.
Everything but that.
Trump.
Have you ever noticed that?
I have noticed that.
Man, I've noticed it too.
It happens every single time. I have to type out Trump, and then it wants to put the S on it every single time.
Yep.
So I do get it. But yes, we will be going over Google. We are running out of time today, so we will be bringing it up because it is amazing the amount of stuff.
Yeah, and just to summarize, here's some of the instances. In 2008, Google appeared to select the radical young Barack Obama to help spur victory over John McCain. Meanwhile, it targeted support for Hillary Clinton for censorship, suspending the accounts of writers who wrote blogs critical of Obama during his primary race against Clinton. In 2012, Google once again favored Obama over Mitt Romney, and inconsistent with its stated policy, the tech giant refused to correct a Google bomb that smeared leading GOP primary candidate for president Rick Santorum.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that, and then there's probably at least 6 other instances that are listed here, and they go all the way to this
2024.
year. They go all the way into this year. Google's still doing it. 16 years later, still doing it.
Yeah, and it's Google's impact on elections has surged dramatically in recent years, and I just want to know what we're going to do about it. I'm going down here to the end where it says recommendations, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you about this. It says recommendations. Speaker Mike Johnson should direct relevant committees and committee chairmen to investigate Google for abridging people's constitutional rights, for coordinating with government to violate freedom of speech, for interfering in elections by making unreported in-kind contributions, and for defrauding its users by failing to meet its terms of service.
Man, can I say something right here?
You go right ahead.
Do you know what that will do? Tell me what that will do. Absolutely nothing. You know it will do like every other thing ever. What you need to do is stand there and go, it's this simple, guys. We're going to follow what the Constitution says, and you don't have the right to suppress my free speech, and you don't have the right to suppress my free speech. And Mr. Government, you don't have the right to suppress my free speech.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nuts. I mean, that's exactly the reason why we're having this lawsuit. It's at the Supreme Court right now.
We are literally fighting our government.
Yes. To be able to talk.
To keep our government from having complete control.
Yes, we are. And that brings us to our last topic of the day. Texas. Yeah, Governor Abbott is still standing up. He is kind of just ignoring.
He's not kind of. He's flat out ignoring them.
The Biden government has argued that SB4, which is the Texas bill that the Biden administration is fighting, and they say it's unconstitutional. Following its request last month, a federal judge halted the law on the grounds that it contradicted federal immigration laws. The Fifth Circuit Court suppressed that ruling until Alito postponed enforcement for administrative reasons. So I just wanted to say that this has not been ruled on yet. It's just been postponed.
So Abbott came back after this ruling and had this statement right here. He said, SCOTUS temporarily halted enforcement of SB 4, but Texas is still using its authority to arrest illegal immigrants for criminal trespass and other violations of the law. We continue building the wall, use National Guard to erect razor wire barriers to repel migrants, and buoys remain in the river.
Awesome.
He says, I don't care what you say, SCOTUS. I don't care what you say, Mr. Biden. And in all fairness, if you're going to beat crazy, you got to come at them with a bigger crazier, right?
That's exactly
If you're going
right.
to beat mean, you got to come at them meaner, you know. And the same with this. If it's okay for President Biden to stand there and give the middle finger to the Supreme Court and try to continue on and ignoring them, then it's okay for Governor Abbott.
Especially when he's trying to protect Texans.
By all means, the ruling is something that's not even in line with what the law says, which the law says we are to protect our borders from invasion. I applaud Governor Abbott. Stand firm on the law, Governor Abbott. Continue to do what's right. Texas has your back. People, we got to pay attention. We got to open our eyes, man. Look at our country. Think about all these different things. The border's wide open. The government is taking down its top political opponent. Crime and poverty are on the rise, big time. Complete corruption by our courts. Look at the rulings that we're having coming down now. And the biggest red flag of all of this is, without our voice, we got nothing. The biggest red flag in all of this is they're actively working with the Supreme Court to unconstitutionally silence dissent from any conservative in leadership, and they're not going to stop there. They're looking to silence them, and they're looking to silence you and me. We can't let that happen. Is this thing working?
Rise up.
Well, hey, everybody, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've learned some things about what's going on around us in the nation and in your communities. You know, we couldn't do this without your continued support either. We appreciate all of you showing up, taking the time to listen to us today. So please, like I say, make sure to hit the like button, share our show with all your friends. We'll see you next time on Is This Thing Working? And as always, I'm James, and that's my lovely co-host over there,
Denise.
and we'll see you next time.
We're out.